What's going on, ladies, gentlemen, listeners of the Didn't Ask podcast? Welcome back to another episode of this right here podcast, the Didn't Ask podcast. How's everybody doing? As you can probably tell, I am not doing so great. I got the flu, I guess, and my nose is all stuffed up. I cannot breathe. I can not smell anything. I sound like I don't know, fucking ate an Oompa Loompa or some shit. It's weird. I'm trying this podcast. I hope this podcast is going to be fine. I'm going to do my best to push myself through, but it's going to be a little harder sometimes to get the sentences out because there's a lot of talking, and talking means no breathing, and if I mean no breathing, I'm going to be dying. So it's going to be a lot of mouth noises this episode. You know, it's going to just sound very stuffy, but how are you doing? Hopefully you had a great weekend. Again, I was sick this weekend, so my weekend wasn't the greatest. I did watch UFC this weekend with Jan Blachowicz versus Alexander Rakic, and that was a very interesting fight. It was a back and forth, really. They were really well matched up, and then Alexander Rakic, he tweaked his knee or something like that, and he couldn't stand anymore, and that's a thing that happened. So there are some crazy things that happen in the UFC with people breaking their legs or tweaking their knees and tweaking their legs just out of weird, necessities, I guess you can say. So it was a bit sad because the fight, of course, it was like I'm saying, it was a good fight, and it was basically a number one contenders fight in the way, because of course Jan Blachowicz is the former light heavyweight champion of the world, now in the hands of Glover Teixeira, and Glover Teixeira is defending his title next month in Singapore. So after that is done, there has to be a new number one contender, and sometimes, which is very weird with the UFC, sometimes they give people immediate rematches, sometimes they don't. And in this case, they didn't for Jan Blachowicz, so he had to go on and fight Alexander Rakic to see who was the better man. And technically, we still didn't get an answer, but in this case, Jan Blachowicz won the fight. That means that he's going to be taking on the winner of Glover Teixeira versus Jiří Procházka. That fight will be in Singapore next month, like I just said. So after that fight, we will see who is going to be going one-on-one with Jan Blachowicz in the near future. Well, this is not a UFC podcast, even though sometimes I want it to be so badly. This is a podcast where I dive into the world of Reddit to see what the people asked Reddit and didn't ask me. So let's jump into the first question of the day, asked by user Melly Neff. And they ask, what is the best cartoon ever? I think that there are many things that you can say are the best cartoon. There are cartoons very old, of course, that hold up very well still. Also, cartoons that completely do the opposite, where people are saying Looney Tunes. There are some very weird Looney Tunes episodes in there, very like racist, similar for Mickey Mouse. There are some real racist things happening in Steamboat Willie and stuff like that. When I saw this, I immediately jumped to Avatar: The Last Airbender. It's might be a cop-out answer because some people would say that it's anime. Some people say it is a cartoon. Personally, I would say that it is a cartoon because it's, of course, made by Nickelodeon. The creators are American and or Canadian. So I feel like there is... It takes heavy inspiration, of course, from anime, but it isn't anime. It's not. It's just not. Like we are living in a very weird time, especially now, where remote work is so common that certain things aren't the way they used to be in the classical sense of the word, where an anime... Normally, at least this is how I always have seen anime. An anime is a cartoon made in Japan, or at least from Japanese origin. That's how I always looked at anime, right? So you have like the Studio Ghibli stuff, that's all anime. And then you have like the fucking Naruto's, the One Piece, the Dragon Ball, you name it. All of that shit is anime. But now we are more so seeing a shift into different studios taking on the work of these, Japanese studios. So there you have Studio Mir, and that is a studio I believe in South Korea, and they do a lot of animation, which means that it's fucking weird. Because then, what is anime? Is it then anime is something that is made in Japan? Is it something that originates from Japan? Is it something that's made in Asia? Right? And now there are even like cartoons that we would say are cartoons. So like Voltron from DreamWorks, I believe that is also being made in South Korea. But I would honestly say that that is a cartoon, even though it looks like an anime. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, going to your question, Melly Neff, what is the best cartoon ever? I would say Avatar: The Last Airbender. I think that there is so much for you to enjoy from that show, from the cool action, of course, with the bending of the elements. There is a great story being told about this guy that has to save the world, but has been dormant for 100 years and now has to basically do catch up because shit is going down right now, and he has missed so much of this world. I think that the animation itself is beautiful, and while it doesn't look as great in the early seasons, don't look that great nowadays because they're all 4:3, which sucks really badly. But or 3:4, is it 4:3? I think it's 4:3. I don't know. So that is a bit sad. That is a thing now that they're the first couple seasons, I believe, are basically squares, which sucks. But I feel like, yeah, there is so much for everybody. If you're a kid, you're gonna enjoy it. Again, the fights where they sling fucking water and fire to each other and throw rocks and shit. That's really cool. But if you're an adult, there is so much. There's a very good undertone of seriousness and things that are going on, and you have the love interests that are super fun and some cheeky jokes in between those. Like it's such a great show, and I have seen the first couple of seasons multiple times, and I still love it every day. And then we got a follow up with Legend of Korra, and I personally I think would like Legend of Korra more overall, but it's really a toin cost. But I feel like Korra as a person, I feel like is a little bit more interesting. She has a little bit more to work through herself, in my opinion. But then again, it's anybody's pick. So yeah, thank you for your question, Melinev. Moving on to the second question of today, coming from user Endowed X, and they ask, you wake up with $1 billion in your account. What's something you still won't buy? And for me, that would definitely be crypto and or anything relating to crypto. Because crypto sucks and it is not stable and it's easily manipulated and people lose a lot of fucking money doing this. Because the joke is, like, I am a big fan of the Sidemen, and of course one of the Sidemen is KSI. And if you know KSI, you know that KSI is a big fan of investing in crypto and NFTs and stuff like that. And my man has a current balance of minus $5 million or some shit like that. It's absolutely fucking outrageous how much money he has lost on NFTs and like digital currency or crypto, I guess you could say. Like, he invested a lot in Luna, I think it was, and then Luna just fucking plummeted this past weekend and he lost like $2 million. And before that, it was like even crazier than that, where he invested in Litecoin and then that dipped and then he lost like 3 million. It's absolutely insane. My man has like legitimately a balance of minus fucking 8 mil at this point. So yeah, like I don't like crypto. I think that crypto is an interesting form of currency if you look at its surface level, but I personally don't think that it's going to have any merit, because the only way crypto can be interesting is if it's completely like, if it's a currency that you can use without anything else really, And it's technically still not, because you have to spend money, like real dollar. There is a dollar equivalent to Bitcoin, right? Because otherwise it wouldn't be interesting. So at that point there is already one fucking thing that goes away. And then people go like, yeah, but what if your fucking, your country falls and you don't have an economy, yada yada yada. And then it's like, well, that's true, but if we don't have an economy, I feel like there are bigger problems to do. And then if the fucking world starts to end, I don't have fucking internet to fucking verify my bitcoins. And if I do have internet, I probably will not have enough fucking power to fucking transfer these fucking coins, because they have to fucking have a whole year's worth of power to make sure that the bitcoins are actually verified. So to me, there are too many weird loops that you need to jump through with Bitcoin for it to be, and Bitcoin and any other cryptocurrency for that matter, but for it to be some form of interesting to take a look into. So yeah, endowed X. You wake up with $1 billion in your account. What's something you still won't buy? And it's crypto. It's definitely crypto. Like, I don't really understand what people think is so interesting about it. I mean, I guess I kind of get that it is interesting that you're investing in something that isn't backed by a government, and that gives you some form of freedom. But on the other hand, it's also just like, hey, people are getting scammed constantly. Money is being stolen. Fucking crypto.com, the biggest fucking platform in crypto, got hacked not that long ago, and they lost like $1 billion worth of fucking crypto. And people just fucking clean that shit very quickly. And there's no way of tracing that back. So you lost your money in that way. So yeah. Thank you for your question, Endowed. Moving on to the third question of today, coming from user Detroit underscore Michidan. And they ask, you're on a date and it's going really great. What can another person say to ruin it completely? I think the easiest thing would be just like, I'm gonna go have a cigarette. Because I would be like, oh, god damn it, that sucks. I mean, while we're at the topic of women and going on dates, I would say if somebody goes like, abortion should be illegal, I'm gonna be like, okay, what the fuck is your problem? Like, I'm not a woman, but like this conversation that is going on in the United States about abortion is so mind-boggling to me. I feel like there is no fucking real reason why you would want to ban abortion. Like, I understand that you think that there is a life form forming in this woman, and that if you do abortion, that you're killing that life form. I can kind of understand that, even though I personally don't think that is a valid reason. Because these motherfuckers eat chickens all day and eat fucking cows, and they go, oh, there's nothing wrong with this. It's the blood of Jesus. So I feel like you're having a weird. So there's this weird, uneven balance in the sense that you're happy to kill animals, but if you kill a cell in a woman's body, then it is ending a life. It makes no sense. But what I wanted to say is, going to the point actually, is that I don't understand why you want anything to be illegal, so to speak. Like, and this is funny when we're talking about gun laws, but I guess gun laws is about safety of other people as well. As we're seeing now, as well, with America having fucking 8 million shootings a day, continuing to have 8 million shootings a day, should basically say at this point. But yeah, to me, it's just like one of those things. Like, if you're against abortion, that's fine. That's your thing. If you ever get pregnant from something or someone, it's fine. You can keep it, right? But just give people the option. Like, that it is legal to smoke weed doesn't mean I have to smoke weed. I don't smoke weed. I don't smoke anything. I don't drink alcohol either. That it is that alcohol is being sold in a fucking supermarket doesn't mean you have to fucking buy 3 boxes of alcohol every time you go to the fucking store. So why the fuck does it matter for you if fucking Sarah from 3 towns over has an abortion? Like, what the fuck is happening? It doesn't make sense to me. So if my date of the night would say, hey, I'm against abortion, I would be like, okay, what the fuck is your problem? Like, why are you against this? It makes no sense to be against abortion. I mean, again, I get that there is a way that you can say, like, oh, it's ending a life, but I don't feel like that holds up very long in any conversation you're having. But then again, I don't feel like it should be illegal to have an abortion. If you don't want to have an abortion, that's totally fine by me. But you don't have an abortion. If you get pregnant, that's fine. But banning other people from having an abortion is just absolutely outrageous. So please, fuck off. Thank you for your question, Detroit underscore Michigan. 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 I don't know what the fuck your name is. Michigan. Massachusetts. Michigan. I don't fucking know. Thank you for your question, anyways. Moving on to the fourth question of today, coming from user dysphobia underscore 1 underscore 0, and they ask how y'all feel about green beans. Man, I really like green beans. I eat green beans a lot. So I'm a very picky eater. And because of that, I don't eat a lot of greens. But I feel like it's very important to eat greens because they're full of vitamins and minerals and stuff like that. And very important things that you need in your life. So it's very important for me to eat nice and green. So I eat green beans quite often, sometimes even 3 times a week. I eat stringless beans and I eat spinach. And those are basically the only 3 products I really eat. When I visit my grandparents, they sometimes make broccoli or something like that, and I'll eat it, but I don't really like it that much. But I still eat it. But sometimes, most of the times, they make green beans or stringless beans or something with those things, and that would be preferable for me because I really like green beans and or stringless beans because they're all somewhat related, right? So dysphoria underscore 1 underscore 0. How y'all feel about green beans? I really like them. They're good. You cook them, you add a little bit of nutmeg, and then they taste very wonderful. So yeah, I like them. Thank you for your question, dysphoria. And now moving on to the final question of the Ask Reddit for today, coming from user dark underscore nation 88, and they ask, what is the female equivalent of Morgan Freeman's voice? Like, whose woman's voice gives you an orgasm? As a gamer, there are many voice actors that do a great job with what they're doing. And I really had to think about this one when I saw this question because my head jumped immediately to Laura Bailey because Laura Bailey is very fucking good in what she does. And everything that she does, it sounds so smooth. But then I was thinking more and I was thinking, what actually gives me an eargasm? And I was thinking Lake Bell. Because Lake Bell has a very sexy voice, especially when she talks in the Poison Ivy voice from the Harley Quinn show. Like, man, that shit's fucking poppin'. And then she, of course, became a Black Widow in the What If TV show that Disney is doing for Disney Plus. She is voicing Black Widow in that as well. So that's really cool. And I think that she has a very nice voice to listen to. I scrolled through the comments of this question and level student said Claudia Black. And Claudia Black, if you do not know, that is the voice actress behind Chloe Fraser in the Uncharted games. She has, of course, done other games as well, but that is basically the most common thing I think most people know her of. She is very good as well. And of course, she has the Australian accent, which really helps her in that viewpoint because of course it makes it even more sexy, you know what I'm saying? So I think level student, I think you're onto something with Claudia Black. I like that. You also have 69 likes as of this moment. Very nice. So yeah, going to your question, dark underscore nation 88. What is the female equivalent of Morgan Freeman's voice? Like, whose women's voice gives you an orgasm? And again, I would say Laura Bailey is pretty much up there for me. Lake Bell is very sexy and has a very good, sexy voice. And then finally, Claudia Black, as submitted by Level Student, because Claudia Black, you know, she has a good voice. But some of these voice things are also, of course, probably related to the character that they're playing in some sense of the word. I would say Haley Atwell has a very good voice too. Very good voice. And Gideon, I don't know what Gideon's name is. Rest in peace, Legends of Tomorrow, because that show just got canceled by CW. Amy Pemberton, she plays Gideon on Legends of Tomorrow, and she has a fantastic voice too, especially because she does for the show more like the very overpronounced AI voice, and it's really good. So that was also a good option to your question, Dark underscore Nation 88. And thank you for your question. And now, moving on to the final question of today. Of course, coming from the Am I the Asshole subreddit, asked by user Throwaway 1917646, and they ask, am I the asshole for not letting the kids go alone to see their dad in his home country? Apologies. English isn't my first language, so that's good to know. That's good to know. I, a 39-year-old female, divorced my ex-husband, 42 male, 8 years ago. We have 2 kids together, 19 male, 18 female, that I had sole custody over after their dad became sick. He's been getting treated for his medical conditions in his home country, and recently I've been told his health is declining. My ex-mother-in-law called me asking if I could let the kids come visit their dad for a few days. She said she would handle tickets and expenses. I was a bit taken aback by her request. I said I was sorry, I wasn't feeling comfortable letting the kids travel alone. She told me she could book me a ticket too. I said I was too busy to literally travel to another country. She asked me to be more considerate and understand that her son misses his kids and wants to see them. I suggested they video call him like they always do, but she told me that her son cried about wanting them to be there in person so he could hug them and smell them. She said his mental and emotional well-being depended on it because of concerns about his health declining. I talked to the kids and they said they wanted to go, but I didn't feel comfortable letting them travel on their own despite grandmother's assurance about taking care of their travel expenses. But the kids never been on a flight out of the country on their own, and so I think it's a valid reason to be concerned, especially since they never been to this place before. Ex-mother-in-law started berating me after I gave her my final answer. She told me that I should be prepared to take full responsibility if my kids don't get to see their dad potentially one last time, but I figured from her tone that she keeps coming with excuses to guilt me into letting my kids go. The kids are upset over the fact that I'm seemingly treating them as small children, but that was not why I said no. Some extra information here as well. The country in question is Spain. I'm worried more about the idea of my kids traveling alone than anything else. The dad used to come visit, but that stopped once he got very sick. Okay, this is a very, very, very simple question if you ask me. Are you the asshole? Yes. Your kids are 19 and 18. And I'm assuming that you're from Europe because somewhere from Europe, because you're saying that English is not your first language and they're also traveling to Spain. So I'm assuming that you're living somewhere in Europe, which makes this even worse in my opinion, because technically if they're 18, they're an adult in you. So technically they don't even have to get your permission. They can just go wherever the fuck they want to. And so first off, that's a thing. Like, my parents are always concerned about me, but I've traveled at this point in the world. I've said this many times on this podcast. I traveled to Toronto on my own when I just finished college. I was like 20, I think, when I went to Canada alone. But beforehand, I went to London a couple of times, which of course is not that far from Amsterdam for where I live. It's like an hour flight, but still, it's, a travel day that you're taking out of it. And yeah, these kids are 19 and 18. They can care for themselves very much. So I don't think that that is a good enough reason. And like, if the dad lived in a country that was just like, oh, this is a fucking shit country and there's war at the doorsteps and whatever, then I can be like, okay, there is a very valid reason for you to not let your kids go there. But there is seemingly no real reason for you to prohibit your kids going on this trip. Like, what are you going to do when these kids move out of their house? Like, what is going on? These kids are 19 and 18. At some point, they're going to leave the nest. They're going to fucking make their own homes. So at some point, you have to let these kids go. And I feel like this is the best opportunity for them to learn how to travel on their own. And if you don't want them to travel on their own, then you have to go with them. And what you're saying is that the your mother-in-law, your ex-mother-in-law, actually offered to pay for your tickets to go with the kids as well. And then you say you don't have time to do that. Like, you don't have weekends? Like, what fucking what? So there is no way for you to say, even in the worst case scenario, you cannot take a day off. So you're telling me that there is no way for you to go like on a Friday night, take like the, I don't know, not even the last flight, I probably, but like take a later flight at like 8 at night, or maybe 9, maybe even 10. Push it to 10. Let's say 10. So you go to work, you pack up your bags, you go to the airport, you fly out on Friday night. You are there Friday. I'm assuming that you're in Europe somewhere. Then you have Saturday the whole day for your kids to visit their dad. Then you have Sunday in like the morning, and then you can fly back at in the evening or whatever the fuck, and you would be home before Monday. And then your kids have seen their father a last time to say goodbye and to say their hugs and kisses and whatever the fuck. And you would be home before you even have to go to work. Like, I don't really see the reasoning why you cannot do this, other than that you don't like the dad in some way, shape, or form. Like, you're also telling that your ex mother-in-law is now coming up with excuses to guilt you into sending the kids. Like, no, she is completely right in the sense that she's saying, like, hey, their dad is dying right now, basically. That's what you're saying. And therefore, he asks if his kids could go and see him. And then you just said, nah, that is not necessary. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't think that's necessary. It's like, what? How heartless are you? So yeah, going back to your question, am I the asshole for not letting the kids go alone to see their dad in his home country? Yes, you're the asshole. These kids are 19 and 18. They are fully functioning adults at this point. And there are kids way younger going on travel. Like, if you really feel bad for them traveling, I think you can even get one of those travel assistants through the airline that will basically guide them through all the steps to make sure that everything is fine. But at this point, that's not even necessary. They're 19 and 18. But honestly, like I just said, I flew to Canada, I flew to England. I have been on quite a couple of flights myself with my parents. I mean, these were all without, of course. But like, the only thing you really need to do is make sure that the tickets, that you have them and that you know where to sit. And these kids are not going on a holiday for fucking 8 years or a month or even a week. They're going for a couple of days, maybe a weekend. So they barely have to carry luggage. So they have a backpack with some clothing, and then that's it. Like, what the fuck is the deal? You know what I'm saying? So I think you're definitely the asshole for not letting your kids see their dad while he's on his deathbed, basically. So yeah, but thank you for your question anyways. And this has been it for this week's episode of the Didn't Ask podcast. I hope you had a good time. If you did, please leave a rating at your favorite podcast services if they have the ability to that. You can do that on Apple Podcasts, but also on Spotify. So please do that on both. If I see your rating, I might read this on the podcast after I see it. You can find this podcast on anchor.fm/didn't-ask-pod. Over here, you can see all the links this podcast links to, but hey, you're here. You found it. You can also find this podcast on YouTube if you want that, because I want to offer this podcast to as many people as I can, and that's the way to do it. So yeah, this podcast is basically available everywhere: Apple Podcast, Spotify, Amazon Podcast, Podcast Addict, Pocket Cast, you name it, it's there. Just search for the Didn't Ask podcast and it should pop up. I will be back next week, and if you want to know what I'm doing in the meantime, you can go to track.tv. And that link will be in the description, as well as the previously mentioned links They will all be there on Trek.tv. You can find all the TV shows and movies I'll be watching throughout the week. It's really fun, so you can see that. Right now I'm going through the Jurassic franchise. So I watched Jurassic Park. I watched Jurassic Park, Lost World, you name it. Jurassic World, I watched that shit too. Man, and in the meantime, I also go to movies when they get out in cinema. So we're gonna see Top Gun soon, probably. Lightyear is coming out soon, so that's very exciting. So yeah, if you want to know when and where I'll be watching those, you can go to Trek.tv and you will be able to check in on me while I do so. Well, that's all for me for this week. Thanks for listening. Have a good week, and I'll see you back next week. Thanks for listening. Bye.